Kim. Thank you so much for joining me on the Well Vegan Travel podcast.
Thanks so much for having me again, Bridie. It's really good to be here.
Yeah, I'm so pleased that you're going to be talking to our listeners on this topic because it's a question that a lot of people ask about. That is how we can go on longer trips with just a carry on. But before we get into that, I want to draw listeners' attention to a recent episode we did together. I think it was episode 88, perhaps, on a trip that we did to Korea together. And also, Kim was on our podcast a long, long time ago when we were talking about the pros and cons of group travel. Before we get into how to travel with a carry-on, Kim, would you mind telling our listeners about who you are and what you do in the vegan travel space?
Sure. So, my company is Veg Jaunts and Journeys, and we organize small group tours internationally, mostly right now in Europe and in the US. And the tours that we're doing in the US are specifically whole food, plant based, no oil, and they mostly take place near the national parks where it's very hard to find vegan food.
That is a fantastic idea. Like you say, there's not a lot of vegan food in these, out at Yellowstone and in Montana and these kinds of places. And we have a lot of people asking us about oil-free travel. And at the moment, we don't offer that. So that's great that you're doing that for that group of people.
These tours have become pretty popular, actually, even with people that don't follow that way of eating. The tours are a little bit different because we don't stay in hotels. We rent usually two very large houses that are right near each other and bring a chef along, and all the meals are cooked at the house. So there's a lot of people that just like the idea of staying in houses instead of hotels. And they said that's why they've joined these tours.
Mm. And as well, being close to national parks, I'm guessing that these tours incorporate some hiking and some nature activities.
Yeah, definitely. So we have a lot of hiking, some boating activities if they're nearby. And then, yeah, depending where the national park is, there could be cultural activities too. So, for instance, we're having a tour in coastal Maine, and we'll go to Acadia National Park just for one day, but then we'll visit lots of towns along the coast of Maine.
Wonderful. I'm so pleased that you're offering these tours, Kim. It's just so wonderful. And what other tours do you have on the books for this year?
This year, we have some tours that we've done before, including Portugal, which we do every year. That one is always pretty quick to sell out. Scotland, Italy, Iceland. Our first tour coming up for the year is at the end of April, and that's in Utah to Zion National Park and Bryce Canyon. That tour sold out about a year ahead of time. We have Rocky Mountain National Park, Maine, as I said, and the first week of October, Santa Fe and Albuquerque, New Mexico, and that will be during the Albuquerque International Balloon Fiesta, which is supposedly one of the most photographed events in the world.
Sounds amazing. And I'm guessing you're going to be packing a carry-on luggage for all of these trips, Kim?
Absolutely. Even though the houses always have a washing machine, sometimes even two. So that makes it very easy. I try to encourage our travelers to pack only carry on as well because we sometimes have to worry about how much room we're going to have in the vans that we rent. As you can imagine, a lot of times the national parks are located kind of far from major cities where we can get groceries. So we have to buy as much of the food as we can the day the tour starts, and to have a week's worth of food for 12 or 15 people, it's really a lot. It takes up almost one van on its own. So, and kind of the food has the priority over the luggage.
I will say that, Kim, amongst our little network of vegan travel professionals, you are definitely known amongst us as being the ninja packer. And I think people are becoming more and more excited to pack with just a carry-on, especially after the sort of the brouhaha last summer with flights when many people's flights were cancelled or postponed, and so many people's luggage was delayed. And a lot of people started getting interested in only using carry on. So, why is it that you decided that this was going to be an approach for your packing for trips?
Well, I have to say that it's very easy for me because I think, as you know, I live in a tiny house of only 400 square feet. So I don't have a lot of clothes to begin with. And I had a couple experiences where my luggage was delayed about 20 years ago. And that's when I decided to start packing carry-on only. One was on a trip to Hong Kong, and one was on a trip to Poland. Luckily, my bags did arrive the next day, but it was still a little bit inconvenient because, for instance, in Hong Kong, I was switching hotels the very next day. And in Poland, the day after I arrived, it started snowing and I didn't have the right footwear with me that was in the luggage. So, yeah, it's been about 20 years since I packed a bag. And I just think it has a lot of advantages. You could save money up front because there will be no luggage fees. You'll be very easily able to use public transportation once you arrive at your destination. You won't have to pay for a taxi. It'll be very easy to take trains or buses or subways. And if you are, if you have relatively light bags and smaller bags, you don't have to worry about going up and down steps to get down into the subway, back up to street level. And as we know, there's even a lot of hotels in Europe that don't have elevators. So if you can easily carry your luggage, you don't have to worry about that. If you don't have a lot of bags and you can handle your bags all on your own, there's no need to use a bellhop and to tip them. So those, I think, are the reasons for saving money. And also, you save a lot of stress if you don't have to worry if your luggage is going to get lost. I have an example of why I really decided to start traveling carry-on, and this was also on this trip to Poland that I went to in 1999, where English was definitely not widely spoken there at that time, and I always use a purse that's like a crossbody bag. I've noticed that lately the airlines are becoming pretty strict and you can't have that bag on you or across your neck during takeoff. I think years ago it wasn't really a problem. They didn't care if a small bag was in your lap, but the last few times I've flown, they've always said you have to put it under the seat in front of you during takeoff. I was on this flight to Poland the day that I was leaving to come back to the US, and the flight attendant told me to put my bag up in the overhead. So I did, but it was a little bit behind me, and I
Mm.
couldn't see it. When the plane landed and we went to get off, the bag was not there. And everything was in it. My passport, my money, my credit cards, cell phones weren't even a thing then, but everything I would have needed to leave the country was in it. And I started panicking, and I've always been the type of person, I can honestly say in my entire life, I have never misplaced my keys. I never lose things. And there was a bit of a language barrier, and the flight attendant kept saying that I must have put it in a different bin. And she helped me look for it a little bit. It was nowhere to be found. It was a small airport, and you had to get off the plane and then take a bus to the terminal. And basically, I was not going to get off that plane without the bag. And so she said, "Get off the plane, get on the bus, and I'll make an announcement if anybody has your bag." So I agreed to do that, and she didn't make an announcement. Then the bus got to the terminal, and just about as everyone was going to scatter in different directions, I heard this woman say to this man, "That's not my bag." It turned out that this couple that didn't know each other was sitting behind me, and when the plane landed, he just assumed it was her bag and being a gentleman and decided to carry it for her, but it wasn't her bag, it was mine, and if I had not heard her say that at that exact time, I have no idea what I would have done. I think just another important thing is don't ever get separated like that from your really important belongings. Like, you have to keep them on your person or under the seat in front of you. I just feel like the less things that you have to keep track of, just the easier it is. And you can also save a lot of time if you're only traveling carry on. A lot of times, if your flight's going to be delayed or even canceled, and the airline will give you the option to take a different flight, the first question they always ask is, "Did you check any bags?" So if you did, I'm not sure what happens. You have to wait to get your bags back, or they somehow have to pinpoint exactly where they are right then, since bags aren't supposed to travel on a plane without a passenger. If you have everything with you, that just makes everything super easy. You can be much more flexible. Obviously, you don't have to wait at baggage claim. I used to fly in and out of Boston regularly, and there were sometimes I was standing there for 45 minutes just for the bags to start coming out. It's just a notoriously slow airport for some reason. You also wouldn't have to wait in the line when you arrive at the airport to deposit your bags. I hate standing in line. I like to just get a coffee, relax, and go straight to the gate. And then say you did have to wait at baggage claim and you were taking public transportation and it's a bus or a train that only departs every 30 minutes or every hour, that could mean that you just miss it. And once you get your bags, you might have to wait a while for the next bus or train to come. And yeah, I think that even when you get to your destination and if you're in your hotel room, um, just the less things that you have to keep track of, then, the better the chance that you're not gonna leave something behind. I can honestly say too, I never left something behind at either end because a lot of my things stay packed all the time, like my toiletry bag is always packed, and things that I would need internationally or on an international flight, it's basically all stored. Oh, well, I have 2 suitcases. One of them is really just a storage one, and the other one is the one that I use. So before I go on any trip, I go through the storage suitcase and just see what I might need in there. But then everything is double checked against the list that I have in my phone. And yeah, so I think that makes packing a lot less stressful. And um, basically, I would bring 5 or 6 outfits no matter how long the trip. So whether it was 5 days or it was a month, it wouldn't make any difference. I don't really think that people are paying attention to what I'm wearing when, they're discovering a new country. I don't hesitate to have the hotel do laundry if there aren't any self-service facilities available in the hotel because I think it might be about $30 to have a load of laundry done, and to check a bag internationally or an extra bag, I don't even really know how much it costs because I haven't done it in so long, but I think it could be 50 or $60. I think that that very much evens out, and if you have time during your vacation to do laundry, it could really be a good local experience going to a local laundromat. Yes, so those are basically all the reasons why I think, packing carry-on is just such a good idea.
Yeah, something that Seb and I just invested in recently is this little tool, I guess, called a scrubber. And it's like a little waterproof bag, like when you're going kayaking and you want to put your things inside to keep them waterproof. But inside, it's got these little, I don't want to say bristles, but nodules sticking up. So you
Uh-huh.
put your clothes inside. It folds up quite small, the size of a phone, I would say. It's light, and you fill it up with water and a little bit of detergent, and then those little nodules, they really scrub the clothes quite well for just 60 or 90 seconds or something like that.
Uh-huh.
So this is something that I want to do more of. Washing in the hotel room, it can be challenging when you're leading a tour to be able to do the washing if a hotel does not offer it, for example. So this scrubber thing is quite a cool little tool. I'm
That
excited
sounds
to try it out.
fabulous. Yeah, because I did forget to mention, of course, I do a lot of hand washing, and with that, you just have to make sure that you're going to have enough time for the clothes to dry, if you're only at a hotel for a couple days. We know too that a lot of times there are heated towel racks in bathrooms in Europe, and then you can dry clothes really quickly
Mm.
by using those.
What are the things that you very purposefully not bring with you that other
Mhm.
people might think is an essential?
Right. So I can say I only have the shoes that I'm wearing. I never
Wow.
pack other shoes. So if I have to be a little bit uncomfortable some of the times, I don't mind because shoes really take up a lot of space. For instance, when I go on the tour to the national parks in Utah, I will just wear the hiking boots that I need during the day, and I'll just wear them on the plane, and I'll just wear them all the time, even if we're not going on hikes. They're very comfortable. I've worn them in cities before in the winter, and all of our tours, especially the ones to the national parks, are so casual.
Mm.
So there's really no reason why somebody would need another pair of shoes. One thing that I'm very happy about now that's has taken me a couple of years to get to this position is that my toiletry bag doesn't have any liquids in it anymore.
Mm.
So for every product, I've managed to find a solid version.
Hmm.
Um,
That's a big one. That's a big thing. If you want to travel carry on, you've got to minimize those liquids.
yeah, yeah. And I think a lot of times, like, well, especially if you're going for several weeks, you might run out of some of the liquids that you need if they're in pretty small containers. So I noticed that sometimes I was having like one bottle in the toiletry bag and then like a kind of extra supply somewhere else in the bag. And I thought, yeah, this is getting crazy. It would be better if I could just switch to solids for everything. I'm really lucky that, I don't have contact lens solution. I have short hair. I can use solid shampoo. I don't have to worry about liquid shampoo. I have to say, I always bring my toiletries with me because I don't wanna be using non-vegan things that might be in hotels. I'm always really happy when I see vegan versions, but, frankly, I'm just so used to using my own things now, and I have it down pat about how much I should bring with me that, yeah, I just normally stick with my own stuff. Um so, yeah, it has taken a while to get to that point, but there's 2 companies that I think are really great that have a lot of solid products. One is from New Zealand. They have very reasonable, shipping costs and sales a lot of times, and then another company that I just found this year is called Meow Meow Tweet, and they I actually found them in a brick and mortar, around here, but then I went on their website and saw how much they have.
Mm.
So
Do you keep your toiletry bag stocked the whole time with these products so that you just take that toiletry bag and pack it?
yeah, and things like my cables too. I always have a set of cables and charging things in my purse, and it's actually quite a small purse. And then I normally have some more cables in my backpack. Just in case something was to get left behind, I would have a backpack. But this way, I don't have to be scrambling when I'm packing. The cables are already in the bag, ready to go.
Mm. Are there any other things that would surprise people that you don't take, do you think?
Well, I'm always laughing when I see people carrying pillows on planes. I mean, I just would never go through that trouble. I have a neck pillow, but it's a blow up one to fit in a carry on bag. I always bring my own blanket. I have one that just stuffs into a fairly small bag for vegan meals. I invested in these collapsible bowls and things, and I remember when we met in Paris, I saw that you had them for takeout, and I had high hopes of using them, but I will say I've scaled down the bag so much now that it would be kinda hard to fit them. I would just bring some snacks on the plane, but I don't worry about, like, bringing a whole meal or something.
Mm-hmm.
Then one idea that I came up with just a couple months ago, I think it must have been when I was leaving North Carolina in November, and it was still fairly warm here, but I was going to Iceland. And so then I needed a winter coat, and it was kind of a drag having to carry the coat with me through the airport. It was too hot to wear it. But I just got a bungee cord, and so I just, fold up the coat and put a bungee cord around it on the outside of the suitcase,
Mm.
and that works so well.
All right. So this carry-on bag that you have, I'm sure you have a favorite and it's your favorite for a few different reasons. Tell us about your bag and what's special about it, why you like it so much.
Okay, I have to say that I have an addiction to suitcases and luggage. Like, I am literally sitting in the airport and looking for bags that could possibly be better than mine, and have sometimes even asked people where they got their bag, but I'm oftentimes very disappointed if I see a really good bag in Europe, and I do see a lot of really good bags there, and then I know it's gonna be pretty difficult for me to find that brand in the US, especially for a good price. It's also taken me quite a while to find the perfect bag, but I'm very happy with the one that I have now. So, it's kind of very sleek, it's not very bulky, but have to have outside pockets. So, I would never use a hard-sided, case because there's no pockets on the outside, and they don't even really seem to me to have very good pockets on the inside. I generally don't have anything that's very breakable, so I don't see any need for a hard side case that have more structure, so you couldn't, put as much into them if need be. Um, yeah, so this one that I have now is kind of fabric on the outside, and then it has 2 really large pockets, and then I always have a backpack with me, but I've even scaled that down lately because, frankly, I don't like having the backpack under the seat in front of me, and then there's not any room for my legs or my feet. I was sometimes having to shove it underneath the seat and worry if it was going to fit, and then I wouldn't be able to stretch out at all. So I have a slimmer backpack now that's pretty flat, and then there's plenty of room when it's under the seat in front of me. But I do always have a small purse as well. I've noticed that lately the airlines are super strict about having only 2 bags. So you have to make sure that the purse, at least for when I'm boarding the plane, will either fit in the backpack or the suitcase.
Mm.
Years ago, I sometimes just traveled with a big backpack that wasn't on wheels. I feel a bit too old to do that now. I'm not very comfortable doing that. And that definitely has its advantages if you're going up and down steps. But I always kind of found it a pain in the neck to be taking this heavy backpack on and off if you're going into the restroom or if you're just sitting down or if you're on public transportation. Um, it's just so much easier to have something on wheels and just be able to roll it and deposit it somewhere.
So it's
And
like a flexible little suitcase with a handle.
yep, yep. And there was one point where I had one of those suitcases that have the 4 wheels that can roll in both directions, but I didn't see many advantages to that. I actually read some articles where travel agents gave their thoughts about that, and, yeah, they said they prefer the 2 wheels, and I think there's also less of a chance of the 2 wheels breaking.
Mm.
I think they might just be bigger or stronger or something like that.
I think the four wheels are good if your bag is very heavy.
Mm,
But if your bag isn't heavy, which it probably wouldn't be if you are just using carry on, then maybe you don't need the four wheels.
yeah, yeah, and then in terms of inside the bag, I used to use packing cubes, like, that were kinda mesh on the top, which I thought those were fine, but now I'm using, more I would call them envelopes. They're just much narrower than the packing cubes, and I have different sizes. So basically, when you open up my suitcase, there's no loose items whatsoever. Everything is in an envelope in terms of clothing, and then anything that's loose in terms of cables would be in the outside pockets. So
Mm.
I have nothing to worry about if TSA security ever wanted to open up my bag. Like, there'd be nothing. They would just be able to take out these 5 envelopes and see everything, and everything would be put back so neatly. And I actually lately, I have to say, oftentimes, I'm not even unpacking when I get to a hotel. Even if I'm there for a week or something, I just feel it so easy to stay organized with these envelopes that have a
Mm.
zipper on them. Normally, yeah, I wear something, might just, like, hang it out, air it out, and then the next day, I'm putting it back into this envelope and taking something else out.
Mm. Can you describe these envelopes a little bit? I'm just trying to imagine what they
They're
look like.
called it's just really like a rectangle with kind of 2 zippers on it. So, the one zipper is to put the things in, and then there's, like, another zipper on the bottom that kind of tightens it up. I wouldn't really say that they're space saving. I don't feel that they're much smaller when you do this double zip thing, but it's very easy to just open up the top of it and be able to see your things lined up. Whereas in a packing cube, you open up the top, but you can really only see what's right on the top. Then you would have
Mm.
to go through the pile to see what's under the top piece of clothing. These that are like a rectangle and just the top opens, you can see everything at once.
So, are you somebody that rolls your clothes?
In the packing cubes, when I use those, yes, but you wouldn't roll with these new things that I'm using.
Okay,
You would just fold and make a stack and then put the whole stack in, like, from the top down.
got it.
Kind of like stuffing a manila envelope.
Mhm. Mm. So you mentioned you also have a backpack. I'm guessing you use that as a day pack when you're going around and about
Mm.
in the city for the day. What kinds of things are you keeping in there? Because I will find like my day pack on a travel day is really big and really heavy, full of like my laptop and some tech stuff, and it does get quite heavy. So I'm kind of wondering what's in yours.
So, the backpack that I take on the plane or that I'm using during traveling is actually not the backpack that I would take while out sightseeing. That one is like a very lightweight, folds inside itself, not very strong. Yeah, just for putting in like a bottle of water and a sweater or a jacket or something like that. The foldable one, yeah, it obviously folds up pretty small, and in case there was an emergency and for some reason you were coming back with more things than you left with, you could check one of the other bags then and have this as a extra bag if you needed to. If I didn't bring an extra one, then I'd have to be unpacking the transit backpack and then, everything would be getting disorganized. So I would rather just bring this foldable thing that really doesn't weigh anything. I did forget to say I always have a refillable water bottle with me that has a kind of filter in the bottom of it that's just like a capsule. You couldn't use it, in certain developing countries where the water wasn't good at all, but it's definitely good for improving the taste of water. So I have no trouble using water that comes out of a bathroom tap because this capsule makes it taste much more like drinking water. But I'm a big coffee fiend and I really don't like, if I'm walking through an airport or something, like carrying a paper cup with a lid on it that
Mhm.
has a chance of spilling. So I found this very cool cup at REI. It's actually a plastic cup that's about 14 ounces, which is like an insert. And then it has a fabric kind of shell with a handle, but the handle totally pushes like a handle that would be on a shopping bag or something like that. It's just made out of fabric, so it takes up no room at all, but when you're drinking the coffee, it's actually strong enough that you can just hold it with this fabric handle. I really don't understand how it can hold a full cup of coffee, but it does, and so you can even kind of carry it. The plastic insert has a lid on it. I've even, like, tipped it on its side and it doesn't leak or anything. So, it's super lightweight. Normally, I'm not a plastic person, like, I don't really have any plastic in my kitchen, but I made an exception for this thing. So, when I'm in an airport, if they won't fill a coffee directly into this cup, I just get a paper cup and then pour it into this cup and get rid of the paper cup. Then when you're just, like, getting on the plane, you don't have to worry about spilling this paper cup. It's just so strong and secure.
Wow, interesting product. I do
Yeah.
carry a coffee to go cup too, but it is a full size one. It doesn't collapse or anything like that.
Yeah, and you could just, like, easily hook this onto a bag on the outside if you needed to with a clip or something like
Mm.
that.
So, Kim, I actually have on our website like a packing list, and I've tried to make it as all encompassing as possible for everybody. Some people will look at this and say, I'm not going to pack that. And some people would look at this and say, no, no, I want to pack more. But I would be very curious to know if you pack this and maybe you have them stored digitally, or maybe you have a particular way or a particular thing that you're going to pack it. Okay, so the first item is a camera.
No.
No, so you just use your phone.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Hair dryer.
I bought a very small hair dryer, but every hotel I've gone to lately has one, overseas. So I wouldn't take it overseas, but I would take it in the US on our house tours because every bathroom is not going to have a hair dryer.
Mm. Now you have short hair, so I know you don't use one of these, but A curling wand or hair straighteners is something that a lot of people feel like they need to take. And Colleen, our friend Colleen, she packs on a carry on as well. And she always takes her curling wand. So you can have a few little sort of, products like this and you can still travel. But it's really important that you check your voltage
Mm,
because if you are taking your curling wand or straighteners from home, where it's 110 volts, then taking them to Europe, that will be bad. It will blow up
right.
or break. So that's not really related, but something that I wanted to share. What about a travel adapter, for different plugs and what have you?
Yeah, so, I used to have a set that had like 6 for all different parts of the world, and now I have found one that's, I think covers every country in one. So it's a little bigger than the other ones, but it has USB ports as well, and there's so many extra ports on it. So I would highly recommend those because then you don't have to get out the regular set before every trip and figure out which ones you should actually be bringing with you.
Hmm. What about things like paperwork? Like I'm thinking travel insurance documentations, copy of your passport, driver's license. What do you do for those things?
Digital, the credit cards, I have a backup credit card, a backup ATM card just in case. It's kind of strange though. I mean, I hate paper. I literally only have 7 pieces of paper in my house, and it's like my house title, my car title, rabies certificate, 7 pieces. So, for the longest time, all of my travel documents were just digital. But once I started leading tours, I didn't wanna take any chances. If I have tickets for our group, I print those out just in case. Sometimes I need paper for something, so invariably, I'm able to show the ticket on my phone, and I printed out the paper for nothing, but it can just be used as scrap paper. I will say I never travel with a laptop.
As someone that also leads tours, that
I
blows
know.
my mind.
I know, and I'm just thankful that it's worked. I mean, there might have been one time in the past several years that I had to access a website while I was on tour that I couldn't access with my phone or that was too hard to read on the phone, and usually now hotels have a computer in the lobby, so yeah, it's been fine. But
Wow.
I'm lazy. I refuse to carry that weight around with me. And my laptop is really small to begin with, it's only a Chromebook.
Blows my mind, Kim. It blows my mind. Okay. Other things that you may or may not take. A basic first aid kit.
No, I really just have Band-Aids with me and some pain relievers, and I have to say I've never even had to use those. The only electronic that I would take is a Kindle or an e-reader
Mhm.
because I do love the idea of having my whole library with me.
Okay. Blackout eye mask.
No,
I take one of those. I'm very sensitive to the light coming in, so I do
I
have
don't
one of
even have
those.
one of my bedroom windows. I have a hill right behind me, and nobody's ever on this hill, so one of my bedroom windows doesn't even have any curtains or shades on it.
I'm feeling very, very precious all of a sudden. There's me thinking that I was a pretty good traveler, and I'm talking to Kim for half an hour, and I'm just questioning everything. What about an umbrella?
Yeah, it's a collapsible one, but not one of those teeny ones that, like, just blows inside out at the slightest wind. It's kind of very slim, but it's, probably twice as long as the really small collapsible ones. And
Right.
I rarely have to use it, but it doesn't take up much room. It fits in the backpack.
And do you have a rain jacket as well?
It depends where I'm going.
I see. All right. Well, lots of nuggets there for everyone.
Yeah.
Kim, thank you so much for taking the time to share all of these tips and tricks for trying to get our packing down to the absolute bare minimum. I'm not sure whether I will get to your level anytime soon, but I think I can certainly be moving in that direction. So before we finish up, would you mind telling our listeners again how they might get in contact with you and follow you and learn about the tours that you run?
Sure. So the website is vegjauntsandjourneys.com. Same on Facebook and Instagram. And my email is kim@vegjauntsandjourneys.com.
Amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thanks so much. It was really fun.